Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
Thank you for joining us back again. It's Talking Books and Stuff's a podcast, which you can find just about anywhere. Obviously, you found it. Thank you for that. Today we have with us David Roche. David is talking to us from Canada's West Coast. We'll get to that in a moment. And David has a book out called Standing at the Back Door of Happiness and How I Unlocked It. And we'll get to that. But first of all, the thing that strikes everybody right away from seeing you, David, is your unique facial features. So the obvious question, how do you describe your unique facial features to us, please?
Wow. Let me do it like how it happened.
Sure.
And then I'll get to a picture. I was born with, there was a slight discoloration on my left eyelid, and the attending physician said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Roche, it will go away in a few days." Well, it's quite a few days since then, and it never went away. It grew when I was a year old. The whole bottom part of my face turned into, particularly my lip, turned into what my father described as a bunch of Concord grapes. No one knew what to do. Went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, which is a really well-known, just something, y'all.
Yep.
And there they cut off my lower lip. So I have a lower lip, it's scar tissue. And then they radiated the whole left side of my face and head, which is sort of like, you can realize, kind of standard procedure nowadays. But back then, they didn't know what they were doing.
Oh.
It was a miracle cure, and they did not target it correctly, they did not point it correctly, and did not measure it. So the whole bottom part of my face, the jaw is shrunken, and then when I was 10 years old, they cut a chunk out of my left temple, saying it was a pre-cancerous lesion. So what you see on my face now, after 80 years, is mottled. It's veins, prominent veins, and the left side of my face is swollen. So that it's, I mean, you know, the truth is, in some ways, I'm actually kind of cute. But
Right.
in most people, on first look, they will be kind of stunned by the mottled look of my face, the different kind of turquoise veins that are throughout, and it keeps slowly growing over the years. I'm in good health at age 81, amazingly. After having that radiation, they didn't know what they were doing. So that does that give you enough of a grasp of how I would describe myself, Dennis?
It certainly does, David. Thank you very much. And let's go back to those early days. You're born just near the end of the Second World War. Apparently your father was a prisoner of war at that time. Is that true?
He was. My dad was in Stalag 17, which is the most famous of the Nazi prisoner of war camps. And so when I was born into a family that consisted of my mother, her two sisters, my grandmother, grandfather, and Blackie, the dog. So it actually was kind of a matriarchy, and I was treasured. Nobody knew if my dad would come back alive. So I was King David. So I was really well treated, you know. So that was a good life to me.
I kind of know what you mean because I was the first grandchild and the first in our family too. So on my mother's side, so that's
Yeah, there's certain
that's right.
privilege in it. Yeah,
It didn't last long, but still, you know.
yeah, I know it. And my dad came back, and it was like, oh, okay, I'm no longer a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You're just kind of an ordinary guy.
yeah.
So you went to tell us about your early life, your education. You went to seminary, is that right?
Well, first, my family is kind of classic Irish Catholic. There were 7 kids total, and so we went to Catholic school, Our Lady of Grace, and the nuns there. And people make jokes about nuns, which are actually kind of unkind, because for me, I was told that I was a child of God. I was told that I was a soul. And so I saw myself in kind of a blessed kind of way. And so I treated really well. And I was a smart boy, and I was the oldest boy, and I was a good boy, and I was an altar boy. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Did
Yep.
all those.
So,
At age 13, I had family, I will call it family pressure, family desires to enter the priesthood, the Catholic priesthood, and that in those days they took you at age 13. And obviously there's a lot of other kinds of stories about that, but I went to be interviewed at the University of Notre Dame, the Holy Cross Fathers, and I was told that I was too ugly to be a priest.
well,
Now, that was like getting hit with a 2x4, especially because growing up as Catholic, going to Catholic school, when the priest spoke, that was like the word of God.
yeah,
So what I heard at age 13 was God telling me that I was a monster.
yeah. So
I
much
never
for
talked
Christian
about that.
forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, I hit that inside myself in anger. That I did not talk about it, and did not know how to talk about it, did not know how to talk about things like this. I actually went to a different seminary, and after 4 years, I rebelled in that I used my sense of humor behind the backs of the priests. And, okay, I was wicked. And after 4 years, they kicked me out. They said I was the worst influence they had ever had. And so I was gone. And I still didn't know what to do. I was trying to be a good boy. I went to a Catholic college in the prairies of Indiana, and still unfocused. Still really good in class, really good grades, magna cum laude degree in philosophy, all great. But here I had no idea really of who I was or what I wanted to do. So here I am at age 21.
Right.
Tell me what I'm supposed to do, Dennis.
Yeah. So what did you do?
First I got a job at a firm that made it's called Durable Punch and Die on the south side of Chicago, and it was the kind of job I had worked my way through college in the steel mills, and so that's I felt most like a man when I was in the steel mills, and this was another factory job. Then I got into the University of Chicago, but I hated it.
Ah,
I hated it, and then I went to Indiana University. I got a fellowship, but then in philosophy. But then it turned out that between the time that I applied and the time that I arrived, there was a rebellion at the university, and as the head of the department told me, yeah, we kicked out all the Catholics.
Oh.
Well, this didn't do me a whole lot of good. So I got into being a computer programmer. Back in the day, there was no training in schools to be a computer programmer. This was 1966, and I took a test. They did a programmer aptitude test, and I scored very well. So I got the first job interview I got. I wanted the job, and I made more money than my dad made in his whole life. But the truth is, I hated every moment of it. Okay, so I did that from time to time during my life. But I never was at that time very focused. I left the Indiana University. I tried to become a hippie, okay? But I was the world's only anal retentive hippie. I did the hippie things. I followed the hippie trail. I got married. I didn't know what I was doing. I got married. I thought I was supposed to get married, and I met a woman who was attracted to me. So that was a big plus. So we got married, and 10 months later, we had a child, Amy, a wonderful daughter. And then so I was trying to be a hippie, and I got into kind of the anti-war movement. I got into helping to start cooperative childcare centers, and as I say, I followed the hippie trail out to San Francisco, and stayed there at different jobs. And so I tried. I never talked about my faith. Okay, never. When I say never, that's in capital letters in this. I just tried to earn a living and did the best that I could. Got different computer jobs and hated everyone, but I did it. That's what I was supposed to do, right?
Right. So, and you went to San Francisco, and you had a storied career after that. You worked for a Marxist-Leninist group for a long time?
I was a communist. Now, I know nowadays, in the States anyway, and in parts of Canada, if you're progressive, then you're a goddamn communist.
Yeah.
Well, I became a communist because I was one of the founders of the Child Care Switchboard and Single Parent Resource Center in San Francisco. And I worked there for 8 years as a counselor, trying to change and help the lives of particularly of single mothers living in San Francisco.
Right.
And I thought that we were going to give them cooperative child care, but they did not want cooperative child care. They needed all-day child care and good jobs. But that was not coming too well. And that's what led me to becoming a Marxist-Leninist, so they say. Because I wanted to change that. I got into local politics. It just seemed mainly hypocritical. So I found an organization that was founded by 10 women. So I thought, founded by women? That's a good sign.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly. So anyhow, I did that for a few years. Learned a lot. not effective in getting the things that I wanted to have happen. And it fell apart. It fell apart due to basically alcoholism and amongst the leadership. With like giving up because Reagan was elected and things changed and all the South America and Latin America and Asia we thought was becoming socialist. They didn't. So now comes the end of that. What am I supposed to do, Dennis? What is my occupation now?
All right.
Yeah.
So what was it?
I got another job as a computer programmer. Still hating it.
Right.
And then I left that to become a massage therapist, and this is a real turning point for me because this is where getting into my body. I always had, as a child, as a young man, been into my body. My dad was a sports writer, and he had a job in the factory, but he also wrote a weekly sports column. And so it was sports all day, all night in our house. 5 boys, 2 girls. Yeah. Football, baseball, basketball.
Yep.
And occasional hockey, but not much hockey down
No.
there.
Well, you had the Blackhawks in Chicago, and
yes, you're right. And I don't know how old you are, how much you remember this, but 1960 they won the Stanley Cup, and they had Bobby Hull.
Sam McKinnon. Oh, I'm pretty much your age. I was born in 1949, so all of that.
Oh,
yep.
And the day before my first wedding, in the dance, I saw Pierre Talat.
Oh, wow.
And I was just the kind of thing is to recognize Pierre Talat, but he has like 18,000 scars all over him. But, but he was such a staunch. He was
he played defense.
He was the defenseman of the day, not, Mr. Vincent Padior and et cetera, et cetera. No. And now we have, in Vancouver, we have Quinn Hughes,
right,
who's the best. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing. How did I start talking about hockey?
Well, because I mentioned the Blackhawks.
Oh, yeah,
and you talked about the hockey not so much in your household. And so when your dad was sports writer.
Other sports, other contact, and then becoming a massage therapist.
Right.
Getting into my body. I always was in my brain. That's what it means to be a computer programmer. I had a degree in philosophy. But I didn't like living in my brain. I like living in my body and in my heart. So if you really track what I tried to do in my life, more and more I tried to get into my heart. I still didn't talk about my face. It was a secret. And I could defend, I have a wicked sense of humor. At times it can be cruel if I want it to be. And so people laid off on me. And plus I was active in daily life. But finally, I volunteered at a hospital. It was in San Francisco, Pacific Presbyterian. They had a program. It was the first massage therapy program in a hospital in the United States. So I volunteered for that. And we had to do the training, and there was a group of us, there was 7 or 8, and sometimes there was another guy. Mostly I was the only guy, and there was a woman there, Marlena, what's her name? And we had to practice before we could get certified to do this in a hospital. We had to deal with all kinds of things. So we practiced on, and I'm lying, I find myself at one point, I'm lying on a table, and Marlena, I'm Marlena's practice person, and she touches my face. And nobody has ever touched my face before, really. And even my first wife, I just avoided that. But and as she did that sent something wonderful through my whole body, and that was the beginning of our relationship, of my finding a soulmate in Marlena, who was also a healer like me with her hands. And we're still married now. Let me see, that was then in 1988. So this is like 37 years later.
Whoa. So,
yeah.
Wasn't there a big earthquake down there around that time?
It sure was. Because I remember that the other day when we had our earthquake here in D.C.
Right.
It was, I remember, I'll talk about sports. Yeah. I was in my apartment. This was 1989. And the San Francisco Giants, my baseball team, were playing the Oakland A's in the World Series. And I had the TV on, and then all of a sudden, I was in the bottom floor of a 3-story house, and all of a sudden, you hear, and I could hear the nails popping out above me, and I thought, well, this is it. I just hope I don't get trapped here for 2 weeks. But the house did not fall. And it was an 8.0 earthquake in San Francisco that survived. Some people didn't. It was a bad earthquake. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing that on, as you said, on TV too. Wow. Yeah. So how did you get, just to jump ahead a bit, how did you get from the USA to BC's Sunshine Coast, where you live on the present day? What happened to get you from down there to up here?
I started a performing career in 1990. And there were 2 things that led me to do that. And, sometimes I present in schools, and the kids say, "Oh, how did you get on stage? Why did you look the way you do? What happened?" Number one, I quit alcohol. Okay?
Yep.
And number 2, I had met my soulmate.
Right.
So I had 2 big bonus things, and I decided that maybe I was a comedian. So I got on stage, and what do you know? I started making jokes about my face, like, yeah, my face is a Ben and Jerry's flavor, and people did not like that at all. And it took me, I was successful right from the beginning, could earn money doing this, especially when I realized comedians don't get rich, but keynote speakers make a lot more money. But I realized, and this is a real turning point in my life, that people would tell me that I was good on stage. And I kind of knew that, but mostly I felt like they were just being nice to the little disfigured guy. So I kind of ignored that. Oh, thank you very much. But then after a couple of years, I realized they were serious, and they were giving me compliments, and I was good. And then after that, I realized the next important thing, and that is that everybody feels disfigured. Okay?
Yes.
And that's why they like me. What I learned to do was I'd start the show, I'd coming out, there's 300 people in the theater, and I'd say, okay, when I point at you, I want you all to say, what happened to your face? They do that? Yes, they nod. 1, 2, 3. What happened to your face? And they all say it. And it creates an instant bond with the audience because I am giving them what they want. They're asking that question. And, it's interesting to see 300 people seeing 290 people saying that. What happened to your face?
Right.
And I explain what happened to my face as I did with you earlier.
Yeah.
And what was happening was that I was there on stage with my facial distance, very noticeable. Nothing hidden. The spotlight is on me all along. And I realized that all of and yet I'm on stage and I am being cute and I am being funny. And all the people in the audience, I realized everybody feels disfigured. So they're looking at me and they're seeing someone who's really disfigured. and it's like being charming and funny and alive and good. And that is so compelling to them because everybody feels like, oh, I have circles. Oh, I have a mole on my wrist. Oh, my hairline is, all that, every kind of thing. Oh, my butt is too big. Oh, my butt is too small. On and on. And so I am, okay, this is a strange word to use. I'm not a messiah there. But I'm showing them, yeah, I know how you feel. I know what it's like to look in the mirror.
Yep.
But you're okay. If I'm okay, you're okay too.
Gotcha.
That's how I started my career. And then I started on stage. I've done shows on stage. I've done keynote speaking. I've done theatrical productions. I've been in films, etc., etc. And I've written my book. Here's how I wrote my first book. And I know I'm dabbling here, Dennis.
Well, that's great.
So,
that's fine.
Okay. I am friends with Annie Lamott, who's probably the best-selling writer, aside from Naomi Klein, in the world, certainly in the U.S. and Canada. And she's funny and she's wise. She wrote a chapter about me in one of her books. Plan D is her book. About a show that she had seen me do and how the kids reacted to me. And it was a beautiful piece. She read it while she was on tour in New York. And an editor from Penguin Books of New York was there and heard her talking about me, called me up and said, "Will you turn your show into a book?" And of course I said, "Yeah." And that's why all my writer friends hate me, because I lucked out, And so I did, and the editor, she really liked it, and she had some. Basically, the whole book was 90% written because it was the show, and I had to expand on it and chapterize it and stuff like that. And she said, "David, at the end of every chapter, you have to give some advice to people." I said, "I don't do that." She said, "You do it now." Okay, so I did it. Yeah. So there's my my writing career started. Okay, I'm come to the end of this chapter 83.
So right now with David Roche, we have Standing at the Back Door of Happiness and How I Unlocked It. So why this book and why now in your life at this stage?
That book, it is a compendium of stories from my life. Is it a memoir? It's memoirish, but it doesn't describe my first marriage, for example, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I wrote it over a period of time, and I didn't plan. Okay, I'm writing this story and this story and this story. And the stories were just there. And so I took them together and sent them off to harder publishers, and they liked them. And there's stories from different parts of my life, some surprising, some a little dismal, some that has to do with written in the hospital. Just come and go. Favorite my favorite story is the lead story called For the Love of Scars. So it's about a tribute to scars and how the work that they do and how they are not appreciated enough. But I also write about other things. My daughter, my first job in San Francisco was a place where, sexual devices were manufactured. So that's an interesting story too.
Right. So yeah, scars. Tell us more about scars. You sort of call them. I can't remember the phrase, but basically beauty marks or marks. They come to life and they explain your life story, sort of.
Yeah, and they don't. People get ashamed of their scars. They try and get the cosmetic surgeon, the plastic surgeon to cover up. Don't leave a scar, please, because they're not given the credit for the work that they do. They are nature's radar, collagen, and they come and they'll guard a nerve, and they'll form around a nerve and keep that nerve happy, and do things like that, and allow you to be fully functioning in the world, and like I say, they don't get enough credit.
Well, I have scars on my knees from getting my knees replaced, so that's, pretty special, I guess, because they remind me what I went through and how better I feel now, so like you said.
Yeah. I just wonder if any of the listeners have any scars that pop into their mind, not in their minds, like literally, but, having the knees replaced, having the hip replaced. I recently got my aortic valve replaced with a cow valve. Oh. So I had extra years in my life. And boy, I'm happy to have that scar. Jesus.
Damn right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you hope the book will do? What's in your wildest dreams, what do you hope the book will do?
Well, I don't know. I guess maybe if I really want to be I want to get some kind of prize. I want to get. I already have the award, the Order of Canada.
Yes.
I got that a couple of years ago. That was nice. For making Canada a better place and for being a leader in disability arts, which is another thread that I could mention too. And I was, on the chair of the board of directors of disability arts organizations in Vancouver and stuff like that. And I've always been in that world a lot, the world of disability. Some people think that if you have a facial difference, that's not a disability, but it actually is, because most people suffer because of it. And I'm sure in my way, I suffer too. When I say, I never talked about my face until I was 44 and Marlena touched me.
Right.
That's pretty outrageous. So that was standing at the back door of happiness. That was standing at the back door.
And then it got,
anybody home?
And then it got unlocked.
Yeah. Oh,
well,
that turns out it wasn't even locked at all.
So, David Roche, a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your first memory?
My first memory is of my grandmother, my Nana. She had lost a child to nephritis about 8 years prior to my birth, and that had marked her deeply, deeply. So I was being the first grandchild and living in the same house with her. I was like a prize. And so she was always so good to me that I remember her holding me up in the dining room, on the dining room table, and jiggling me up and down while she sang, "Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come waltzing Matilda with me, da 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 da," and I think that was my first dancing lesson
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my first memory. Yeah.
Yeah. And one more, David. What's the best sandwich in the world?
The best sandwich in the world. I like to get it at Granville Island. It's a Reuben, and that has real corned beef, not Montreal smoked meat, not Montreal. That is not it. Corned beef, and dressing, and sauerkraut, and Swiss cheese, all melted on rye bread. Oh my God, that's so good.
Oh.
I want one now.
Yeah, me
A
too.
Reuben sandwich, yeah.
Yeah. Well, our time is pretty much up, David. David Roche, Standing at the Back Door of Happiness and How I Unlocked It. David, thank you very much for your time today. It's been illuminating.
Well, that's a very kind compliment, Dennis. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your skill as an interviewer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the listeners. Take care.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.